We got some breaking news today because apparently Gina Carano's lawsuit against Disney is in fact moving forward. There was some speculation about what was going to happen with this because Disney was going to file for having the case dismissed, but a district court judge in California today took a look at their motion for dismissal and rejected it, so now it's moving forward. This is coming from that Park Place. In court documents obtained by that Park Place, U.S. District Court Judge Sherilyn Peace Garner has denied the request by the Walt Disney Company to dismiss Gina Carano's lawsuit, with Gina Carano and her lawyers against the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm's attempt to dismiss her case. According to Judge Garnett, Disney, Lucasfilm, and Huckleberry have failed to set forth an impenetrable defense under the First Amendment. The court denies defendant's motion. Carano filed her lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company back in February, with suit detailing it is a civil action arising from the defendant's wrongful termination of Carano's employment in retaliation for Carano's lawful exercise of her right to speak and express her views. Specifically, defendants under the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek fired Gina Carano because of her posts on various social media platforms, including X, formerly known as Twitter. Carano composed and published the posts while she was off duty and away from the workplace. And also something that she brings up in her lawsuit against Disney is other co-stars of hers on The Mandalorian specifically made more insidious posts than what she did, yet they got to retain their jobs, while Gina Carano herself was fired for saying stuff that was actually pretty tame if you really did see what she was saying. The suit also alleges defendants terminated Carano's employment and took other retaliatory actions to limit and deny her future employment opportunities, including but not limited to making maliciously false statements about Carano with the intention of damaging her reputation and thus her ability to find and retain work. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not the most knowledgeable person on this subject, but to me, that's probably the worst part about this is the fact that Disney was making false statements against her character after they fired her. And I don't understand why they would do such a thing if other than the fact that they're trying to damage her career, because it's pretty easy to verify what she actually said. And you can actually look at her social media posts and see that she didn't make the statements that they said that she made, but they went with that route anyway, which doesn't seem to make much sense to me. The lawsuit specifically accused the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm of wrongful discharge, and refusal to hire, and sex discrimination. And some people might think like, well, I mean, Disney's a private company. They're free to fire people for whatever reason they want, right? Well, that's not necessarily the case in all situations, because there are certain protections that employees have and certain things that employers can't fire their employees for. And in the state of California, where this lawsuit is being brought in, there's this legal code right here that actually says that people are protected on the basis of political opinions, political affiliations. No employer shall make, adopt, or enforce any rule, regulation, or policy forbidding or preventing employees from engaging or participating in politics or from becoming candidates for public office, controlling or directing or tending to control or direct the political activities or affiliations of employees. And the argument can be made that's what Disney's trying to do by saying that she can't speak her mind on her own social media profile away from Disney and on her own free time. And that's why they're bringing forth this lawsuit. And that's kind of the reason why the judge decided not to dismiss this case outright, because there are some arguments that need to be heard when it comes to this case. And that's why it's going to be moving forward. Carano is asking for preliminary and permanent injunction relief, requiring defendants to reinstate Carano to her prior position with no loss of pay or benefits. So this paragraph is just kind of highlighting what she's demanding in her lawsuit. Now, I don't think they're actually going to rehire her, even if this case goes through. I think there's going to be some type of settlement to be had here, probably some monetary thing like, okay, if we were going to continue having you on the program, then this is how much that you would get paid and stuff like that. Because if they don't want to work with her, and I'm sure she probably doesn't want to work with him, so a settlement is probably what she's trying to go for with this one. And in all honesty, she might receive a settlement sooner rather than later, because if the case is moving forward, then we might get to discovery. And that's when you can start subpoenaing Disney emails and other things like that to try to gather evidence. And I don't think Disney want to have some other personal information being released like this. So they might try to settle in order to try to just end it right here and then not move forward with that case. I'm hoping that she doesn't actually settle at that point, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, because if she does reach a settlement with Disney, then that is a victory on her part. The Walt Disney Company filed a motion to dismiss in April, arguing that Disney makes this motion on the grounds that Disney has constitutional rights not to associate its artistic expression with Carano's speech, such as the First Amendment provides a complete defense to Carano's claims. Now, this is kind of opening up a can of worms for Disney, because when they're saying they're firing her because they don't want to be associated with her speech, then that's tacitly admitting that anyone else that they don't fire for their company is basically speaking on behalf of Disney, or that they actually endorse those other political views. So when you get someone like Pedro Pascal, who calls half the country World War II bad guys, well, then Disney not firing him is basically saying, yes, we support that speech and we support what you're saying right here. So that's why it's not really smart on the part of Disney to try to fire someone and say you're firing them specifically because you disagree with their political views. Because Disney's public position is that they're nonpartisan. They're saying that they're not right wing, left wing. They just are their own company, but they do have their own set of values. But apparently, according to this, though, at least not directly, but indirectly, they're saying their values, though, are far left leaning, which is not really a good sign for a company like Disney that's trying to play the middle road here. But I think most people understand where they actually stand politically at this time. Disney's motion added the coup de grace came in February 2021 when Carano admittedly posted on Instagram a post comparing criticism of politically conservative viewpoints to the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. That's not really what she said. It adds Carano's decision to publicly trivialize the Holocaust by comparing criticisms of political conservatives to the annihilation of millions of Jewish people, notably not thousands. I don't know where they're emphasizing that, but whatever. Was the final straw for Disney, as Carano alleged Lucasfilm that same day denounced her statements and observed that no plans to employ her in the future. And all she really said was she wasn't trying to compare Jews in the Holocaust to conservatives. She was saying before they actually started rounding up Jewish people, the government trained the citizens to demonize them because of their beliefs. So don't demonize people because of their beliefs. I'm kind of just kind of summarizing it, but that's essentially what it is. At no point did she say like Republican, conservative, or anything like that. It was really just a call for unity, something that everyone should be able to get behind. But apparently that's a bad thing for Disney to call for unity, unless you're just calling for submission, because some people in the political landscape, when they say we want to unify the country, they basically just mean submission, because they're not actually interested in unity unless it's unifying under their terms, which, like I've said, is submission. The motion later stated Disney had enough. The same day, Carano grotesquely trivialized the Holocaust as comparing to sharp political. Okay, so we kind of went over this, just them misconstruing what she said when it can be easily verified what she said, which, like I said, is the only reason you would do that is if you're trying to damage her character, if you're just going to outright lie, because there's no need to be, or no acceptable excuse to be this ignorant on the subject if you can just go on social media and do a quick search and verify what she actually said. On June 12th, Carano, her lawyer, and lawyers representing the Walt Disney Company appeared before U.S. District Judge Cheryl P. Garnett, and according to a report from The Hollywood Reporter, Judge Garnett was unconvinced by Disney's argument. I'm not convinced there are no disputed facts. The outlet also reported that Judge Garnett appeared to favor an argument from Carano's lawyer, Gene Scherer. Scherer argued Disney's First Amendment defense cannot allow it to short-circuit the normal litigation process. And that's pretty much why this case is moving forward, because there are some matters of fact here that aren't necessarily cut and dry. So that we need to look into them a little bit further and gather some more facts on them. And that's why it's continuing on. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Judge Garnett reacted to the argument stating, I don't necessarily agree with you. The Hollywood Reporter, Winston Cho, even noted a federal judge has signaled that Gina Carano's lawsuit against Disney and Lucasfilm over her termination from The Mandalorian will be allowed to proceed as the court considers whether the First Amendment allows private companies to sever ties with employees who publicly clash with their values. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying. Disney publicly has no political viewpoints, but in this argument, though, for the case, they're trying to say, yes, we do have political viewpoints. They're far left leaning, and her basically espousing what are pretty moderate views conflict with them. And I don't think that's really something that they want to have on public record, but I don't know. I guess that's the argument they're going to try to make with this one. Carano shared her thoughts after leaving the courtroom to X. In the beautiful halls of the federal court in Los Angeles, I was quite amazed at its splendor. I half expected to see Tom Cruise come sailing down the center like in the Mission Impossible movies. Having just left court, the judge said she would issue a ruling in the near future. She added, "This case is important beyond just me. Disney should not have carte blanche authority to fire any actor just because Disney disagrees with something they say outside of work. No actor would be free to have a voice if that were true. I look forward to this case moving forward and providing Disney's blatantly discriminatory actions. Again, thank you for the support always." And that really is the big takeaway from this, because they say it's like I said, they're misconstruing what she was actually saying on social media. But if that's really the case, just like, how mild can it be if they can just fire people because they have a political disagreement with them? If anyone is just saying like, "Hey, I think you should vote for this candidate," and Disney executives don't like that, should they be allowed to fire them as a result of all that? Well, according to California law, you really can't do that. So it's just a matter of how far the law actually goes here. And that's what the court is ultimately going to settle on. Or I don't know, maybe they'll reach a settlement between them before it actually gets that far. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think this is pretty much as far as it's going to get? Or do you think that she's actually going to do a lot more with this lawsuit in Disney? Comment below. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share the video out there because it helps out with the channel. Thank you.